If you're done mocking me, Your Honor, I said, I'd like to correct the mistake in your ruling before an innocent black man gets buried alive. These were the words I spoke in court that day, after it felt like the whole world was mocking me, a black kid. Have you ever been judged, mistreated by power, discriminated against, or felt like your dignity and self-worth were completely stripped away? Or have you ever gotten caught up in a mess just because of one simple thing you said, only to have it unravel into a story you never saw coming? Let me tell you my story, what I had to face and endure during those days. Leave a comment with the number 9 to let me know you're here with me and ready to hear what I have to share. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss a single intense moment coming up. If you're deaf or hard of hearing, please turn on subtitles. We've created special captions just for you because you matter. This is Radio from Hine, the #1 YouTube channel for justice and equality for all, standing firm against racism and discrimination. Wishing you a peaceful day. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the kind that feels peaceful, the kind that feels loaded. Like everyone in the room is waiting for something to explode, but no one wants to be the first to move. I was standing in the middle of a courtroom I wasn't supposed to be in, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, mahogany walls, a judge's bench that looked more like a throne, and me, the quiet black kid in a gray hoodie. I could feel their eyes on me. Not curious, not concerned, just annoyed, like I was wasting their time, like I didn't belong. Judge Braxton leaned forward from his bench, his face, pale, pinched, and tired of seeing people like me, twisted into a smirk. I'd read about him, watched old footage. The man was known for being brutal in court, sharp tongue, no patience, especially not for kids like me. He didn't even pretend to hide his contempt. Well, he said, dragging the word out. Are you going to speak today, son, or are you just here to stare at the floor? I said nothing, not yet. His eyes narrowed. You standing there wasting everyone's time. What's the deal? Stage fright? Or are you just too damn dumb to understand where you are? Laughter, soft at first, then louder. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just stood there, not frozen, just waiting for the noise to burn itself out, for the performance to end. Braxton leaned back and let out a fake sigh like he was exhausted by the sight of me. Let me guess. You think you're some kind of genius, right? Some misunderstood prodigy who's going to teach the whole courtroom a lesson? He gestured to the gallery behind me. Kid like you don't end up here unless you're trying to be something you're not. You'll learn that real quick. More laughter. Someone muttered smartass under their breath. Another voice, low, mocking, called me quiet boy. And still, I stayed still. Back straight, hands at my sides, heart steady. Because they didn't know what was coming. They thought I was scared. They thought I was out of place. They thought I didn't belong. They were wrong. Judge Braxton scoffed again and waved a hand like he was done with me. Get him out of here, waste of damn time. That was when I looked up. Just a shift of the chin, a glance upward, but it changed everything. He saw my face fully for the first time, and I saw his eyes flicker. Just for a second, like he wasn't sure what he was looking at anymore. I stepped forward, just once, and then I said it. My voice didn't shake, it didn't rise, it didn't flinch. If you're done mocking me, Your Honor, I said, I'd like to correct the mistake in your ruling before an innocent black man gets buried alive. The room went dead. Every cough, every shuffle, every whisper evaporated. No one moved, no one laughed, even Braxton froze. His lips parted slightly, like he wanted to say something, but forgot how. The defense attorney beside me leaned back like someone had punched him in the chest. The prosecutor turned to look at me, brows furrowed like I'd grown an extra head. And the clerk? She just stared, pen hovering midair. No one expected that. Not from a 16-year-old. Not from someone wearing scuffed sneakers and a hoodie 2 sizes too big. And definitely not from me. Judge Braxton sat there, blinking slowly. I watched the color drain from his face like someone pulled the plug. He looked at me differently now. Not like a boy who wandered into the wrong room. Not like a joke. Like a threat. Like a problem. Because I'd shattered the script. I didn't cower. I didn't crack. I spoke, and I told the truth. Braxton's mouth opened again, but this time, no words came. His fingers gripped the edge of the bench, tight, white-knuckled. He looked at me like I'd just flipped the world upside down. And I guess, in a way, I had. His face went pale. But that was only the beginning. A few weeks earlier, I was in the back row of honors geometry, Second period. Lights too bright, clock too slow. Same as always. No one talked to me. Not because they were afraid, but because they didn't see me. It's like I was made of smoke. Not really there, just something in the corner of the room no one wanted to look at too long. They had their friends, their jokes, their parties, and I had formulas. While they passed notes, I solved puzzles. While they talked about football, I rewrote algorithms in my head. I didn't speak unless I had to, not because I couldn't, because every time I did, someone looked at me like I was weird, or worse, like I was trying too hard. I knew what people thought. Quiet kid, too smart for his own good, bit off. But that didn't matter to me, because I had a secret life. After school, after homework, after dishes, after mom came home from job number 2, I'd crack open my laptop and dive into court records, public databases, old case files no one cared about anymore. I didn't do it for fun, not exactly. It was like a compulsion, a habit I couldn't shake. There was something comforting about the logic, the patterns, the pieces waiting to be rearranged. One night, somewhere past midnight, I found it. A name, Derek Holloway. Charged with armed robbery, 3 eyewitnesses, security footage. Open and shut, the prosecutor wrote. But it didn't sit right with me. Something felt off. The video was grainy, the timeline too neat, and then I saw it. A single frame where the lighting didn't match the timestamp. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But I wasn't most people. I dug deeper, cross-checked time of day light angles with GPS coordinates and sunrise data. Ran the footage through metadata extractors. There was a glitch. Someone had tampered with it. The file had been compressed and re-uploaded. That altered the timestamp. On purpose. I knew what I was looking at. Someone forged the evidence. And Derek Holloway, a black man with no priors, no weapon found, and no motive, was about to get buried for it. I didn't know him, never met him. But when I saw his booking photo, eyes dull, shoulders slumped, like he'd already given up, I couldn't look away. Because right then, the knock came. 3 times, sharp, deliberate. Harper froze, reached for his weapon. Another knock. I moved toward the door, instinct taking over, but Harper beat me to it. He cracked it just enough to peek, then opened it. There was no agent, no soldier, just a delivery envelope on the ground. He picked it up, scanned the hallway. Empty. That night, I didn't sleep. Back inside, we opened it. Inside was a single folded letter. No address, no signature. Just a typed message, short and clear. We saw what you did. You're not alone. I read it twice. Then again, my hands started to shake. Harper stepped back, leaning against the wall like he'd just been hit in the gut. This changes things, he said. Is it a threat? I pulled court transcripts, police reports, security logs, all of it. He shook his head. No, it's a warning. Or a signal. I glanced at him. You believe it? His voice dropped. I believe there are people out there who want this machine to burn just as badly as you do. I sat down, still holding the letter. The words burned into my brain. You're not alone. For so long, I thought I was. A kid screaming into silence. A hacker with no badge. A black student no one believed until the world was forced to listen. But now, someone else was listening. And the more I read, the worse it got. Someone out there knew the same darkness. And maybe, just maybe, they were ready to fight it too. Later that night, Harper stood near the window, arms crossed. You can walk away now, he said. They're indicting Richardson. The press is eating itself alive. We've done more than most people ever will. I looked up at him, but not enough. He nodded once. Didn't think you'd say anything else. He tossed me a fresh burner phone and a key. What's this? Another address. Secure node. Clean laptop waiting. You want to keep digging? You'll need it. The cops rushed the arrest. The public defender didn't question the footage. The DA presented it like gospel. I took it, and something inside me settled. Not peace, but clarity. This wasn't just about Richardson anymore. It never was. The next morning, I stood outside the Capitol building. The sun was rising. The city buzzed, trying to return to normal like it hadn't just witnessed a power structure crack in half. Harper stood beside me. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Like no one thought he was worth double-checking. Because in that silence, we both knew there were more doors, more lies, more names. And I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I used to be the quiet kid in the back of the room. The one teachers forgot. The one students mocked with whispers they thought I couldn't hear. Now? Now I was the name on everyone's lips. Because to them, he looked guilty. And that was enough. Reporters, prosecutors, politicians, they all wanted a piece of me. Some called me a whistleblower, others a traitor. A few even dared to say genius. But none of them knew the truth. I didn't do this for the headlines. I did it because I couldn't watch a system swallow another black man whole just to protect itself. The letter, "You're not alone," changed everything. It meant someone else had seen behind the curtain. And if they were watching, listening, maybe they were fighting too. Maybe this wasn't the end of my story. Maybe it was the beginning of something bigger. Harper and I didn't talk much after that morning. That realization hit me harder than I expected. He just handed me a flash drive, a new encrypted laptop, and directions to another safe house even he wouldn't follow me to. He said, "You've got the instincts, but you'll need more than skill now. You'll need patience." I asked him if he was done. He didn't answer, just gave me a rare, crooked smile. Truth's a virus, kid. Once it spreads, even the strongest walls start to rot. And then he was gone. Back at the new safe house, an abandoned library converted into something that looked almost like home, I opened the drive. Inside were classified files, access points, private keys to encrypted databases I hadn't even known existed. Names, places, operations. Because it reminded me of someone I saw in the mirror every day. All tied to the people Richardson protected, people still out there, still watching, still dangerous. I started digging again. But this time it felt different. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't running. I was building something. A war chest of truth. The media frenzy around Richardson was already dying. The government was scrambling to save face, to patch the cracks. They arrested 2 more low-level aides, froze accounts, held press conferences with words like integrity and reform. I started keeping a file, but I saw it for what it was. Damage control. They were hoping I'd disappear now that the cameras had turned away, but they didn't understand something about me. I never wanted the spotlight. I just wanted the truth to hurt, to matter, to leave a scar. Sometimes at night, I still hear it. The judge's voice, his laughter, that smug smirk as he looked down on me like I didn't belong in that room. Labeled everything, cross-referenced inconsistencies, highlighted contradictions. And I remember what I said back to him. "If you're done mocking me, I'd like to correct your mistake before an innocent man goes to prison." That moment, those words split everything in two. Before, I was a shadow. After, I was a problem. And they still see me that way. Not because I'm wrong, but because I refused to stay small. My mom calls once a week now. She doesn't ask where I am. I think part of her knows she shouldn't. It wasn't just a bad case. But she always says the same thing before she hangs up. "Be careful, and don't lose yourself." I tell her I'm trying. But I know I already have. Not in a bad way, not lost like broken, lost like changed. Like someone who can't go back to who he was, because he's seen what that world really is. They still think I'm a kid with a laptop. But what I've built since that courtroom, it's not just code. It was a setup. It's a weapon. And when the time comes, I'll use it. Not for revenge, not for glory, but for every name they buried, every truth they tried to erase, every lie they sold in suits and smiles. This is no longer about one man or one case. It's about the system they swore would protect us, and the fact that it didn't. So yeah, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I'm not the kid in the back of the room anymore. I'm not a mistake they can clean up. I'm the consequence they didn't calculate. And I'm not done, not even close. What would you do if you uncovered the truth, but the truth put a target on your back? This story wasn't just about a teenager with a laptop. It was about a system that looks away when it should be watching. A courtroom that mocked before it listened. A society that measures credibility by age, skin color, and silence. Tobias Jennings stood up not because he wanted to be a hero, but because he refused to be a bystander. And in doing so, he revealed a dark truth that still exists today. That sometimes, telling the truth is the most dangerous thing a young black person can do in America. But Tobias also showed us something else. At first, I told myself someone would catch it. The defense attorney, a clerk, a judge with half a conscience. That age doesn't define intelligence. That justice isn't served until someone dares to speak when no one else will. That change always starts with someone brave enough to say, this isn't right. So maybe the question isn't, how could this happen? Maybe the question is, how many times has it already happened and no one listened? This story is a fictional dramatization intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not based on any specific real individual or event, and it does not aim to defame, attack, or insult any person, profession, or institution. Instead, it is meant to spark reflection on themes of justice, racial bias, and youth empowerment. Now we want to hear from you. What would you have done in Tobias's shoes? Do you believe our justice system is built to protect the truth or to bury it? What can we all do to make sure stories like this don't happen in real life? I said, leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story made you feel something, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. We tell real stories that matter, stories that challenge, reveal, and shake the silence. Hit that bell so you never miss a story that could change the way you see the world. Thank you for watching this video. Wishing you a peaceful day, and see you in the next one. But no one did, because no one was looking. Especially not when the person on trial was a poor black man who didn't speak like them, didn't dress like them, and didn't matter to the system. I kept checking the court schedule. The verdict was coming, soon. I had the proof. I had the breakdown. I had everything. Except one thing, a voice that anyone would listen to. I was 16. No law degree, no authority, no power. But I knew what I found was real. I wasn't guessing. I wasn't theorizing. I was right. Still, I hesitated, because what would it matter? Who would listen? And that's when the thought hit me, hard, ugly, cold. If I didn't do something, he'd go to prison, maybe for life, maybe worse. And the system would move on like nothing happened. Like his life was just another box checked. Like another black man locked away wasn't even worth blinking at. That thought, it stayed with me, sat in my chest like a brick. I couldn't ignore it. So I made a decision. I was going to speak, even if no one wanted to hear me, even if they laughed, even if they tried to shut me down. I had the truth, and the truth deserves a voice. But the moment I decided to act, I found something else, something buried deep in a file directory that shouldn't have been there. A seal, a code, a classification tag. Restricted, federal, confidential. That made no sense. Why would a simple robbery case be marked like that? Why would public court footage be locked under federal encryption? Unless someone higher up didn't want anyone reviewing it. Suddenly, I wasn't just chasing justice. I was standing at the edge of something much bigger, and I had no idea how deep the hole really went. Once I knew what I had, I did what any normal person would do. I tried to tell someone. I wrote an email to the public defender's office. No reply. I called the courthouse, asked if I could speak to someone on the Holloway case. They hung up. I messaged 3 journalists I found online. 2 of them never responded, and 1 blocked me after I said the words video tampering. At first, I thought maybe I hadn't explained it right. Maybe I needed to sound more professional. So I rewrote my messages, made them tighter, more direct, attached diagrams, screenshots, metadata analysis. I even included a breakdown of the lighting patterns in the surveillance footage. Still nothing. That's when it hit me. It wasn't that I wasn't making sense. It was that I was 16 papiers. And I was black. And in their eyes, that made me nobody. Just some kid who watched a few crime shows and thought he cracked a case. To them, I didn't matter. Not my voice, not my brain, not the hours I spent poring over court records while other kids were out living normal lives. None of it mattered. I wasn't a witness. I wasn't a lawyer. I wasn't even legal age. I was invisible. Again, that word kept coming back. I'd been invisible in class, in the lunchroom, in the hallway. Now I was invisible in the justice system too. But this time, someone's life was on the line, and I couldn't let it go. That night, I sat in the kitchen staring at my laptop, the screen glowing against the dark. My notes were everywhere. Printed pages, highlighters, legal pads full of numbers and timestamps. Mom walked in from work just past midnight. Her eyes were bloodshot, hair tied back in a messy bun, fast food bag in one hand, her purse in the other. She dropped everything on the table and looked at me. "What are you still doing up?" I hesitated, then I said it. "I found something." She raised an eyebrow, tired but still curious. "Something for school?" "No," I said. "Something real. A man's going to prison for a crime he didn't commit. I have proof. I just need someone to look at it." She didn't say anything for a second, just looked at me. Then she sighed and rubbed her temples. Baby, you've been glued to that laptop for days. What are you even talking about? I turned the screen toward her, showed her the file, the analysis, the footage. This is the video they used to convict him, I said, but someone tampered with it. They changed the timestamp. Mom stared at the screen like it was a foreign language. She didn't blink. This isn't your job, she said softly. But nobody else is doing it, I replied. They didn't even check. He's innocent, Mom. She sank into the chair across from me, closed her eyes, took a breath. I work 2 jobs to keep us afloat, she said. I'm barely sleeping. You're 16. You're not supposed to carry things like this. I know, I whispered, but I can't let it go. I can't unsee it. And if I don't say something, they're going to bury him. She looked at me for a long time, longer than usual. It wasn't disappointment in her eyes. It was fear. Do you even understand what you're saying? She asked. You're talking about hacking court files. You're talking about accusing the system of cover-ups. I didn't hack anything illegal, I said quickly. Everything I accessed was public, until it wasn't. Jesus, Tobias. She rubbed her face. I just want you safe. I want that too, I said. But this isn't about me. It's about what's right. The room went quiet again. Only the hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Then finally, she spoke. Where is the trial? I looked at her. Downtown. Courtroom B. She shook her head. This is insane. I know, I said. But I'm right. And she knew it too. Something in her face shifted. A mother's instinct. A flash of pride buried under layers of exhaustion and worry. She stood up, took her keys, grabbed her coat. You got 1 shot, she said. You better make them listen. I followed her to the car, hands shaking, heart pounding. Not from fear, from something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The lights in the courtroom felt hotter than before, or maybe it was just me. Either way, the temperature had changed. Everyone was looking at me differently now. No more chuckles, no more smirks. Just tension. Thick and sharp, like a blade pressed against skin. Judge Braxton's hands had gone still. He no longer looked amused. His eyes narrowed, trying to figure out what kind of storm I had just brought into his courtroom. I took 1 step forward, holding my breath. Then I spoke. I reviewed the surveillance footage submitted by the prosecution, I said, the one they used to place Mr. Halloway at the scene. My voice echoed, not loud, just clear. Braxton squinted. You mean the robbery footage? I nodded. Yes, sir. The timestamp on that video shows Mr. Halloway entering the bank at 9:42 a.m. That's the core of the prosecution's timeline, right? The prosecutor stood, clearly annoyed. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Braxton raised 1 finger without taking his eyes off me. Let him talk. The prosecutor sat down hard. I opened the folder in my hands. Printed screenshots. Frame-by-frame analysis. Overlays. My fingers shook slightly as I laid them on the table beside me. There's a problem with the video, I said. It's been compressed and re-encoded. That's not uncommon when footage is entered into a court system, but when you compress video, the metadata changes. Braxton's brow furrowed. What kind of changes? Timestamp drift, loss of original file creation time, shadow distortion if frame rates are altered. And most importantly, I stepped closer, my voice low now, almost surgical. Light direction. The room held still. I lifted the still image from the footage, a grainy shot of a man entering the bank. This is the frame used to place Mr. Halloway inside the bank at 9:42 a.m. Braxton leaned forward, staring at the paper like it might bite him. The problem, I said, flipping to my second printout, is this shadow. I pointed to the edge of the frame. According to this, the sun would have had to be overhead, which only happens after noon. The courtroom murmured. I heard someone whisper, "Wait, what?" I didn't stop. I pulled the solar trajectory for that day. Time, location, sun, angle. The sun rises from the east, but in the footage, the light is coming from nearly due south. That's impossible at 9:42 a.m. unless someone altered the footage. Braxton turned to the prosecutor. Is this true? The man looked flustered, like someone had just yanked the rug out from under him. Your Honor, this is absurd. He's not even certified in... But is it true? Braxton repeated louder. The man clenched his jaw. We'll need to verify. Braxton looked at the clerk. Get the original footage. From the bank, not the court database. Now. She jumped from her seat like the bench was on fire. The room buzzed. I stepped back. I could feel my mother's eyes on me from the gallery. I didn't dare turn around, but I could hear her breath, sharp, tight. like she was still trying to understand who her son had become in front of all these people. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, the clerk returned with a flash drive in her hand. She plugged it into the monitor beside the bench. The screen came to life. The same scene played, same entrance, same grainy shot. But this time, the timestamp read 12:19 p.m. Gasps. People were sitting up now. Phones were out. Even the court reporter looked like she'd forgotten to type. Braxton stared at the screen. "That's not what was submitted into evidence," he muttered. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to, because everyone saw it now. Mr. Holloway didn't walk into that bank at 9:42 a.m. He wasn't even there when the robbery happened. The video was fake, or at least edited to look real, and someone had used it to lock up an innocent man. Braxton turned slowly to face me, his expression unreadable now, part disbelief, part something else. "You did all this?" he asked. "You found that?" I nodded once. "Yes, Your Honor." He looked like he wanted to say more, but he didn't get the chance. The courtroom doors burst open behind me with a violent crash. 2 officers charged in, hands on their weapons. "Step away from the bench," one of them shouted. I froze. Everyone did. The younger officer pointed directly at me. "That's him. We traced the breach to his IP address. He hacked the court's internal database." Gasps again. This time sharper, harsher. I turned. The officers were closing in. "Get that kid. He hacked the justice system." Murmurs turned into panic. Braxton slammed his gavel. "Order, order!" But nobody listened. I looked at my mother. She was standing now, both hands over her mouth. And all I could think was, this wasn't how it was supposed to go. I wasn't supposed to be the one in cuffs. I was just trying to tell the truth. The handcuffs were cold. Colder than I thought they'd be. They clicked shut around my wrists, like a trap snapping closed. The younger officer yanked my arms behind my back so fast I almost lost my balance. The metal bit into my skin, cutting off circulation. I winced, but said nothing. I could hear my mom screaming. "Let him go! He didn't do anything! That's my son!" She was pushing through the benches, her voice frantic, shaking. "He told the truth. You all saw it. He saved that man's life." But no one moved to help her. No one stood up. Because that's what the system does best. It watches and it stays silent. Judge Braxton stood frozen on the bench. For the first time, he didn't look powerful. He looked confused, rattled. "Someone tell me what the hell is going on," he barked. The older officer spoke, his voice clipped. "We received a breach report. Someone accessed protected files from the court system. We traced the activity to this kid's laptop." He jerked his chin toward me like I was some kind of evidence. "This isn't about a mistake anymore. It's a federal breach." The words hit harder than the cuffs. Federal breach. Mom's voice cracked. "He's a kid!" He was trying to stop a wrongful conviction. "Is that illegal now?" She tried to reach me, but the officer blocked her with one hand. "Ma'am, stay back." She didn't move. Tears streaked her face, her breath ragged. "You're doing this because he's black, because he embarrassed you." The younger officer turned away like he didn't want to hear it. The courtroom had gone from stunned silence to whispered chaos. Phones were recording now. People were asking questions, but none of it mattered. Not to them. I turned to face Judge Braxton. I didn't know what I was looking for. Mercy, doubt, regret. But he met my eyes, and I saw it. Not fear, not anger. Just calculation. A man realizing he was about to lose control of the narrative. I cleared my throat, my voice low and dry. "Is this how you fix your mistakes, Your Honor? By arresting the only person who told the truth?" His mouth twitched. "You accessed sealed data. I accessed evidence that proved your court was about to convict an innocent man. That's not your call to make. But it was your call to double-check. You didn't." The room held its breath. Braxton stepped down from the bench. That alone told me everything. He never stepped down. He ruled from above. But now, we were face to face. He walked toward me, slow, like he was approaching something dangerous. "You think you're smarter than this court," he said. "Smarter than the law." I didn't answer. "I've seen kids like you before," he added, voice low, bright, defiant. "You burn hot, but you burn out." I held his stare. "I'm not here to burn anything, sir. I'm here to stop someone else from getting buried alive." He paused. Something flickered behind his eyes. But before he could respond, the courtroom doors opened again. Not slammed, not shouted, just opened. And in walked a man in a black suit. Clean lines, Polished shoes. No badge visible, but everything about him screamed authority. He walked right past the gallery, past the clerk, past the prosecutor who froze mid-sentence. He approached the bench and leaned in close to Judge Braxton, whispering something I couldn't hear. Braxton's face changed, like someone had just delivered the final blow to whatever story he was trying to hold on to. He stepped back, his hands clenched behind his back. The suited man turned to the officers. "That's enough," he said, calm but firm. "Stand down." They hesitated. "But we have him on—" I said, "Stand down." Reluctantly, the younger officer reached for the cuffs and unlatched them. My hands dropped to my sides, red marks burning into my wrists. The man looked at me. His face was unreadable. "I need to speak with the boy," he said, privately. Mom rushed to my side, pulling me into a hug like I might disappear again. I could feel her heartbeat racing through her jacket. Judge Braxton was watching us. He looked smaller now, like someone who just realized the walls were closing in. I glanced at the man in the suit. Who was he? And why did the judge look more scared of him than of what I'd uncovered? I didn't know it then. But the truth I had just exposed wasn't the end. It was the start of something bigger, much bigger. And I had just become a threat. Not to a courtroom, but to something far more powerful. They walked me into a side room just off the main hallway. No windows, just a long table, 2 chairs, and the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. The man in the black suit sat down across from me, calm, polished, every movement calculated like he'd done this 100 times before. He opened a slim leather folder and didn't look at me for a long time. I stayed quiet. My mom wanted to come in with me. He said no, said it was classified. That word again, like a shadow that kept following me deeper into the maze. Finally, he spoke. "You're Tobias Jennings, 16, honors student, no record." He glanced up at me, eyes sharp but unreadable. "You also accessed a restricted file last night at 12:17 a.m. on a private judicial database using a proxy chain out of Oslo." He closed the folder. "That's a federal offense." I didn't flinch, but I felt it. The shift in tone. This wasn't a lecture. This was a warning. He leaned forward. "My name is Agent Cade Harper. I work with the Federal Cyber Investigations Division." I raised an eyebrow. "That's a thing?" He didn't smile. "It is now." Silence stretched between us. Then I asked, "Why would a public criminal case be sealed with federal clearance?" His eyes locked onto mine. And this time I saw it, just for a second, hesitation. "You're asking the wrong question," he said quietly. I leaned forward. "Then what's the right one?" He exhaled slowly, like he didn't want to say it out loud. "Why was it sealed in the first place?" That landed hard. Harper pulled out a small black tablet and tapped through a few files. Then he turned it toward me. On the screen was a log, dozens of encrypted entries. Each one linked to the same case file I'd been reading. But half of them weren't even in the court's official system. I squinted. "These aren't from the DA's office," I said. "No," Harper said flatly. "They're from an internal system used by federal analysts. The case you exposed wasn't just misfiled, Tobias. It was flagged." "Flagged for what?" He stared at the tablet. "Anomalies. Dozens of them. Money trails, disconnected bank accounts, wire transfers overseas." He looked up. "You didn't just stumble onto a wrongful conviction." I swallowed hard. "What did I stumble into?" He paused, then said, "Something you were never meant to see." A chill slid down my spine. I leaned back in my chair, eyes still fixed on the tablet. I remembered the metadata, the tampered footage, the altered timestamps. All of it had been tucked behind a security wall I wasn't supposed to be able to access. But I had. Not because I was trying to break the law, because I was trying to tell the truth. "You said I committed a federal offense," I said. "So what now? Are you going to arrest me?" Harper's expression didn't change. "No, that's not why I'm here." "Then why are you here?" He tapped the tablet off. "Because you triggered something bigger than you realize. And when that happens, people pay attention." He leaned in. Too much attention. There was a beat. Then, bang. A gunshot cracked through the air like thunder. It came from outside, back in the courtroom. Harper was on his feet in seconds, pulling a pistol from inside his jacket. Another shot, closer. I bolted upright, heart in my throat. "What the hell is that?" I gasped. He stepped toward the door, weapon raised. "Stay behind me." Screams echoed down the hallway, heavy footsteps, radios blaring, another gunshot. This one sounded like it hit something. Or someone. Harper opened the door just a sliver, then slammed it shut again, locking it behind us. "We have to move," he said. "Now." I stared at him, stunned. "Are they shooting at me?" He looked at me dead on. "No," he said. "They're trying to erase what you know." I felt my knees weaken. It wasn't just about a case anymore. I wasn't just the kid who hacked a video. I was a target. The hallway was chaos. Screams, gunshots, footsteps slamming the marble floors like war drums. Agent Harper didn't hesitate. He yanked me by the arm and we bolted out of the side room, moving fast, low, quiet, trained. I'd never seen a grown man move like that. Not a cop, not a teacher, not anyone. He moved like someone who had been hunted before. "Stay close. Don't stop," he said through gritted teeth. We turned the corner into the main hall just as another shot rang out. It hit a window, glass shattering inches above our heads. People ducked behind benches, crawling, screaming. A woman in a skirt suit was on the floor, hands over her ears. A security guard lay slumped against the wall, his radio buzzing, face pale. Harper didn't slow down. Neither did I. My mom, where was she? I whipped my head around, searching through the chaos. And then I saw her, standing frozen near the front doors, hands out, mouth open, but no sound coming out. Her eyes locked on mine, wide with terror. "Mom!" I shouted. Another shot exploded behind us, this one closer. She screamed and dropped to her knees. Harper spun, put 2 quick shots in the direction of the gunfire, then grabbed my shoulder. "Move!" I ran to her, threw my arms around her. "I'm okay," I whispered, even though I wasn't sure if it was true. She was trembling, holding me like she was afraid I'd disappear again. Harper was shouting into his earpiece now. "We have a breach inside the building. At least one armed hostile. No insignia, no ID. "Who are they?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Are they after me?" This time he looked at me. "Not just you. What you found." My mom looked between us, eyes wide. "Tobias, what did you do?" I couldn't answer. I wasn't even sure anymore. All I knew was someone didn't want me to speak. Harper pulled a small metal object from his coat and tossed it down the hallway. It bounced once, twice, then erupted in a burst of white flash and sound. The building shook. "Go!" he yelled. "Back exit!" We moved, fast. Past courtrooms, past shattered windows, past the bodies of guards who were never trained for this kind of war. I could barely breathe. My lungs burned, my legs were lead, but we didn't stop. Not until we reached the emergency exit at the back of the building. Harper shoved it open and daylight hit us like a slap. Bright, hot, disorienting. An unmarked black SUV was idling against the curb, engine running. Harper threw open the rear door. "In, both of you." We piled inside. I collapsed onto the seat, chest heaving, my mom clutching my hand like it was the only thing tethering her to this world. Harper jumped into the passenger seat and barked, "Go!" The driver hit the gas. Tires screeched. And just like that, we were gone. 15 minutes later, the city was behind us. Tall buildings replaced by scrubland. Freeways turned to winding roads. Sirens faded into nothing. I stared out the window. Everything felt unreal. The courtroom, the bullets, the blood. My hands were still shaking. Beside me, my mom sat rigid, arms crossed over her chest. She didn't speak, didn't look at me. Not yet. In the front seat, Harper was on the phone again, muttering words I didn't understand. Containment, false narrative, secure relay. Then he hung up and turned halfway toward me. "You understand now?" I blinked. Understand what? He looked me in the eye. "You pulled on a thread." I swallowed. "The case?" "No," he cut in. "Not just the case. You uncovered something they buried deep, and they'll do anything to keep it that way." I leaned forward. "Who are they?" Harper paused. "Then, the people who don't answer to courts, or cameras, or voters." The SUV swerved off the main road onto a dirt path. Dust rose in clouds behind us. Harper looked back at me. "You're not safe in the city. You're not safe anywhere they can find you. Then where are we going?" He nodded toward the tree line. "Somewhere no one's supposed to know exists." We followed the dirt road for a mile, then another. At the end of the trail stood a cabin, old, remote, half hidden by trees and brush. My mom looked at it, horrified. "You're taking us to a shack in the woods?" Harper stepped out, scanning the tree line. "This is where people go when they're not supposed to be found." He opened the door. Inside was bare. One room, a desk, a generator, a cot. No internet, no cell towers. Just silence and fear. I sat down hard on the edge of the cot. The weight of everything I'd uncovered, everything I was starting to understand, pressed down on me. I wasn't just running anymore. I was hiding. And for the first time since it all began, I started to wonder if I'd made a mistake. Then Harper spoke again. "You don't get it yet, do you?" I looked up. He stood by the window, eyes locked on the horizon. "You just dug up something they were willing to kill for." The cabin was quiet, too quiet. No city noise, no phones ringing, no sirens in the distance, just the hum of the generator and the occasional creak of old wood settling. I sat at the narrow desk in the corner, my laptop open in front of me, fingers poised above the keyboard. Harper had finally handed it over after searching the hard drive twice and wiping all network trackers. "You've got one shot at this," he'd said. "After this, we disappear completely." My mom lay on the cot behind me, her back turned to the room. She hadn't said much since we got here. I couldn't blame her. We'd gone from courtroom to war zone to exile in a matter of hours. And now here I was, 16, alone, hiding in a forest with a government agent and a laptop full of secrets. But I couldn't stop. Not now. I started digging deeper into the sealed files, the ones I wasn't supposed to see, the ones that triggered the attack at the courthouse, the ones they would kill to keep hidden. At first, it looked like just noise, dozens of financial records, seemingly unrelated. But then I noticed the pattern. All the flagged accounts were tied to a single project code, FR79. I ran that code through everything I had. Nothing official came up. No documents, no explanations. So I did what I always did when things didn't make sense. I started pulling at the threads, one by one. Using backdoor access points and masked relays, I traced the funding transfers. They were subtle, spread across shell companies, disguised as consulting fees, nonprofit donations, infrastructure grants. But the totals, massive, millions, tens of millions, all siphoned from public programs and redirected into something invisible. Harper stood behind me, arms crossed, watching the screen over my shoulder. His face didn't move, but I could feel the tension building. "You're seeing it now, aren't you?" he said quietly. I nodded. "It's not just corruption." "No," he said, "it's infrastructure for something darker." I clicked into a hidden server string and decrypted a batch of raw logs. A name popped up, one I hadn't seen before. Senator Dean Richardson. The moment I saw it, I froze. My mouth went dry. "You recognize it?" Harper asked. I nodded. "He's on TV all the time. Talks about justice reform, tech policy, national security." Harper snorted. "Yeah, the man who talks about protecting the country while bleeding it dry." I stared at the name. Dozens of payment trails led straight to accounts under his influence, some in the Cayman Islands, some routed through fake tech vendors. It was a money laundering operation, hidden behind campaign speeches and public service announcements, and I had just uncovered it. But that wasn't the part that scared me. What scared me was what the money was buying. A separate file attached to the logs showed allocations, not to services, not to salaries, to assets, to containment units, to off-book contractors. Harper leaned in. His voice dropped. "That's not just laundering. That's building a shadow force." My stomach twisted. "He's paying for—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "Black operations," Harper said, "with no oversight, no accountability. And they're the ones who came after us." Harper nodded once. "Now you're getting it." I scrolled further down the list, page after page of encrypted memos, contracts, personnel notes. One entry stopped me cold. Operation, clean slate. Objective, neutralize breach. Recover device, erase all external traces. The timestamp, from 3 hours ago. Harper read it with me, his expression hardening. "They know where we are." I looked up at him. "How? You said this place was off-grid." "It is," he snapped, "but maybe they followed the relay. Maybe someone on the inside slipped. Doesn't matter." He turned, threw open the duffel bag by the door, and started pulling out gear. 2 handguns, a satellite phone, a burner tablet. I closed the laptop. The room felt like it was shrinking. Then, the lights flickered. The generator coughed, once, twice, then silence. A red message blinked across my laptop screen. "You have been detected." I stared at it, my body locked. Harper spun toward the window. Headlights. At least 3 sets. Tires on gravel, doors slamming. Men's voices, low, fast, brutal. "They're here," Harper said. My mom sat up on the cot, eyes wide with panic. Harper yanked the curtain aside, saw the SUVs outside, and turned to me. "You did good, Tobias," he said, "but now it's time to run again." Another knock, not on the door, on the walls of reality. We weren't alone. Not anymore. The first bullet shattered the window. Glass exploded into the cabin like a bomb. I ducked instinctively, heart slamming against my ribs, the sound of splinters and metal ricochets ringing in my ears. "Down!" Harper barked. He pushed my mom flat to the floor, then shoved me behind the desk with one arm while drawing his gun with the other. Outside, engines roared, SUV doors slammed, boots hit the ground. No one shouted warnings. No one yelled police. They came in silent. That's how I knew they weren't here to arrest us. They were here to end this. Permanently. Harper peeked out from behind the broken window, then pulled back fast. No uniforms, no lights, tactical gear, suppressed rifles. "Who are they?" I gasped. "They don't have names," he said grimly. "Just orders." Another shot cracked through the wall, this one burying into the wood near my head. I flinched. My mom let out a strangled cry. "Back door," Harper ordered. "Now, move." He threw the laptop into my backpack and slung it over my shoulder. I grabbed my mom's arm, and together we crouch ran to the back of the cabin. Another bullet ripped through the ceiling. Harper kicked the door open and cleared the porch with his weapon raised. "Go!" We stumbled into the night. The woods were thick, uneven. Twigs snapped underfoot. Cold air bit at our faces. The SUV headlights behind us cut jagged patterns through the trees as the men closed in. My legs burned. My lungs felt like they might collapse, but I didn't stop. Couldn't. Because every step we took away from that cabin was a step away from death. Harper guided us off trail, weaving through brush and shadows. He moved like he knew this land, like he'd been preparing for this moment his whole life. We ducked under a fallen tree trunk, slid down a narrow slope, and reached a rocky clearing. Moonlight gave everything a silver glow. I could barely hear anything over the pounding in my head. Then, Harper raised a fist. "Stop." We dropped low, panting hard. A voice echoed through the forest. "Find the kid. No survivors." It wasn't shouted. It was cold, professional. Another voice responded, "Copy that." I looked at Harper. His jaw was clenched tight, eyes scanning, calculating. "This isn't just cleanup," he muttered. "This is execution." I swallowed hard, my breath shaky. "They're really going to kill us?" "They don't want a trial. They want silence." We crawled behind a line of dense shrubs. I pulled my mom close. Her hands were trembling, and I couldn't tell if she was more afraid for me or of me. I dragged her into this. She had every right to be angry. But she didn't say a word. She just held my hand like it was the only thing anchoring her to this world. Suddenly, branches snapped nearby. Flashlights flicked across the trees. Harper pulled me closer. "They're flanking. What do we do?" I whispered. "If they spot us, we hold. No sound, no light. If they engage..." He didn't finish that sentence, because we both knew what it meant. Another flashlight beam swept just feet from us. My heart felt like it might shatter from the pressure. Then, a voice crackled over a radio. "We've got movement. North Trail." The agents near us paused. Could be a decoy. Doesn't matter, we regroup, go. And just like that, the lights moved away. We stayed still for what felt like an hour, though it couldn't have been more than 2 minutes. Then Harper exhaled and stood. "We move. Now." We cut west, toward a dried creek bed Harper claimed led to a ranger's service road. My body ached, but adrenaline kept me moving. The woods grew denser, colder, each step more silent than the last. Finally, in the distance, we saw it. A dirt road barely wide enough for a vehicle. Parked under brush was an old SUV, camouflaged beneath a tarp. Harper tore the cover off, tossed us in, and jumped behind the wheel. The engine growled to life. We peeled off into the darkness, gravel flying behind us. No one followed, not yet. My mom sat in the back seat, still shaking. I reached for her hand, and this time she gripped it like steel. Harper drove in silence, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. I looked at him. "They're not going to stop, are they?" "No," he said flatly. "You dug too deep, saw too much." I nodded slowly. My voice was quiet but firm. Then we hit back. Harper glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You sure you're ready for that?" I didn't blink. They tried to erase me. I leaned forward, staring through the windshield into the endless black. Now I'm going to make sure the whole world sees them. We didn't stop driving until the sun started bleeding through the trees. Harper kept his eyes on the rearview mirror, fingers tight around the wheel. My mom sat beside me, silent, staring out the window like she was afraid the forest might grow mouths. And me? I just held on to the backpack, to the laptop, to the truth we nearly died for. We pulled into a gas station just past dawn, one of those half-dead stations you only see in horror movies. Flickering sign, one pump working, vending machines cracked and dusty. Harper put the SUV in park and turned to me. "I'm going inside, stay in the car." I nodded, but something about his voice. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a test. He looked at my mom. "Lock the doors. Keep your heads down." He stepped out and disappeared into the store, shoulders tense, hand near the gun he always kept just beneath his jacket. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Then I reached for the laptop. My mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Tobias, don't." "I have to," I said. "If we wait too long, they'll bury everything." She didn't argue, just closed her eyes. I connected through the last secure tunnel I had left. My fingers flew, searching for anything we could use. A mistake. A weak link. Then I found it. Jacob Finch, mid-level contractor, former government finance analyst. His name showed up in 5 different flagged transfers. And recently, he'd started shifting money out of offshore accounts. Fast, like he was scared. He was trying to disappear. I clicked deeper into his profile. Phone logs, travel records, emergency contacts. He hadn't spoken to anyone in 3 weeks, but a delivery was scheduled to his old address in DC. He hadn't vanished yet. I reached for the burner phone Harper gave me and started typing out a message. That's when I felt it. The breath on my neck. The presence behind me. Before I could even turn, a hand clamped over my mouth. The car door flew open. I was yanked out by the collar. My mom screamed. I tried to kick, twist, anything, but the man was huge. Another figure stepped from the shadows, pistol pressed into my ribs. "Do that again," he hissed, "and you won't get another chance." They weren't in uniforms. No badges, no names. Just black hoodies, black gloves, black eyes. I struggled, panic rising, but they shoved me toward a black sedan parked beside the dumpster. "Get in," the taller one growled. I didn't move. He slammed the gun harder against my side. I said, "Get in." I climbed into the back seat. The door locked with a metallic snap. The air smelled like sweat and old cigarettes. The second man tossed my backpack into the front seat and slid behind the wheel. We peeled away from the station. Gravel kicked up behind us. "Told you," the guy next to me said. "Kid couldn't leave it alone." I tried to keep my breathing even. "Who are you?" I asked. He smirked. "Doesn't matter." "You work for the senator?" That made him flinch. The driver barked. "Shut him up." The guy grabbed my arm and leaned in, breath sour. "You have no idea what you walked into, kid. You think this is about money? You think this is about some court case?" He leaned closer. "You just wrecked something that's been in motion for years." I stared at the rearview mirror, praying, hoping, willing Harper to see what happened, to follow. But he was still inside that station. They waited for him to disappear. They timed it perfectly. Another bump in the road. Another turn. Then, bam! The car jerked sideways. Tires screeched. Another SUV blocked the road ahead, lights off, engine dead silent. The passenger door flew open. Harper. Gun raised. Eyes ice cold. "Let him go," he growled. The man next to me reached for his weapon, but Harper didn't blink. "You really brought a gun," he said, "to a trap I built?" Before they could react, a second SUV smashed into them from behind. The sedan spun, and I realized I wasn't the only bait. The second SUV hit us so hard, my skull bounced off the side window. Everything spun. Lights, glass, gravity. I felt weightless and crushed at the same time. The guy next to me slammed into the door, cursing, while the driver lost control of the wheel, fists scrambling for balance that didn't exist. Then the world stopped. Screeching tires, yanked doors, gunfire. Pop, pop, pop. Silenced rounds, fast and deliberate. One of the men screamed, then nothing. The other tried to pull me from the wreck, but Harper was already there. He grabbed my arm and yanked me free like I weighed nothing. We stumbled back toward the black SUV, the second one, the one that saved me. More agents poured out, not like the men in black hoodies. These guys were coordinated, trained, ours. Mom was in the back seat. She threw the door open and grabbed me the second I was close enough. Her hands shook as she touched my face, my arms, my chest, checking for blood, for bullet holes, for pieces of me that might have gone missing. "I'm okay," I choked. "I'm okay." But I wasn't. Because the second we pulled away, I saw the look on Harper's face. He wasn't relieved. He was angry, furious. We didn't drive far, just enough to get clear, swap vehicles, and vanish again. Back inside the new SUV, Harper sat in the front passenger seat, burner phone pressed to his ear. He didn't say much, just a few clipped words. Then silence. Then, "Pull over," he said to the driver. The SUV rolled to a stop on the side of an abandoned service road. Dust settled around us like ash. Harper turned around and tossed me a tablet. "Take a look." I opened it. My heart dropped. Across every major news site, every feed, every outlet was my face, blown up mugshot style. Headlines screamed in bold letters. Teen hacker breaches federal security system, national threat or terrorist. Sources confirm African-American teen targeted justice database in coordinated cyber attack. Law enforcement suspect may have foreign support. I couldn't breathe. They flipped it. Turned the whole thing on me. I didn't do any of this, I stammered. They know that. The files, the evidence. I found the truth. Harper's voice was low, controlled, dangerous. And that's exactly why they're burying it. He leaned back, eyes cold. You embarrassed them. You exposed the cracks. Now they're painting you as the problem so they don't have to fix anything. My mom's hand clutched mine tighter, her knuckles white, her voice trembled. They're calling him a terrorist. Tears stung behind my eyes. I blinked hard to stop them. They're making me into the villain, I whispered. Harper nodded slowly. That's how they play the game. You can be a genius, you can save a man's life in a courtroom, but if you're young, if you're black, and if you make the wrong people nervous, he exhaled. They rewrite the narrative before you even get a chance to speak. I stared at the screen again, my face, my name, twisted into something unrecognizable. They hadn't just tried to erase me physically. Now they were erasing my story. Harper looked back at me. You said you wanted to hit back. I do. Then you're going to have to flip the table. I looked up. How? He cracked a rare smirk. By doing what you do best, finding what they don't want anyone to see. I nodded slowly. I already have a name, I said. Jacob Finch. He's trying to run. Then we grab him before they do, Harper said. If he talks, we make it public. We take control of the story, your voice, your terms. Mom looked between us, terrified and exhausted. Tobias, she whispered, if you keep going, there's no turning back. I met her eyes, saw all the fear, all the love. I know, I said quietly, but if I don't finish this, someone else gets buried next. Harper nodded. Then it's time we find the one loose thread they forgot to cut. Outside, the wind kicked up dust along the empty road. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were about to go loud. 2 days later, I was standing in front of a mirror wearing a stolen tuxedo that didn't quite fit. The bow tie was crooked, the shoes pinched, and no matter how much I adjusted the collar, I still looked like a kid playing dress-up at a funeral. Just breathe, Harper muttered behind me. He was adjusting his cufflinks, dressed in a tailored black suit like he was born for this kind of room. The kind where money didn't just talk, it silenced. I look ridiculous, I said. He smirked. You look expensive. That's all that matters. We were inside the loading dock of the largest hotel in D.C., just a freight elevator ride away from the most exclusive charity gala of the year. Senator Dean Richardson was the guest of honor. The same man whose name sat at the top of our evidence files. The same man funneling millions through shell companies and off-book contractors. The same man trying to kill me in silence while shaking hands in front of cameras. Tonight, I wasn't just crashing a party. I was walking into the lion's mouth. Security's tight, Harper said. We've got 5 minutes, tops. Once you plug the payload in, get out. And if they spot me? He met my eyes. Run like hell. The elevator dinged. We stepped inside. I held the USB drive in my pocket like it was a grenade, because, in a way, it was. The drive had everything. All the files, the transactions, the names, a direct feed to Harper's secure network. The moment I uploaded it, it would start broadcasting. Not just to law enforcement, but to the world. The elevator doors opened to music and light and luxury. Crystal chandeliers, champagne, laughter that smelled like power. I moved through the crowd, keeping my head down. No one noticed me. No one ever does, until it's too late. Harper moved separately, blending in with a group of military donors. He gave me a slight nod from across the room. That was my cue. I headed toward the AV station tucked behind a velvet curtain near the stage. If I could plug in there, the broadcast would hit every screen in the building, every projector, every device synced to the system. The voice over the mic made my stomach turn. And now, Please welcome the man of the hour, Senator Dean Richardson." Applause erupted. I peeked out from behind the curtain. There he was, the man who tried to paint me as a terrorist, shaking hands, smiling, radiating charm like it was a weapon. He didn't know I was here, not yet. I reached the control panel, plugged in the drive. Lights blinked green. Files began to upload. 30%, 50, 80. That's when I felt it. Someone behind me. Breath close. A hand gripped my shoulder. I froze. "You shouldn't have come here, kid." The voice was low, ice wrapped in silk. I turned slowly. A man in a black suit, clean-shaven, cold eyes, one hand in his pocket, probably gripping a weapon, the other still clamped on my shoulder. "I don't know who you think you are," he whispered, "but you just made the worst mistake of your life." I looked him dead in the eye. Funny. I was about to say the same thing. I pressed the final key. The screen behind the senator flickered. A new video began playing. Bank statements, surveillance clips, voice recordings. Every file I'd decrypted streamed live. Gasps rippled through the room. Phones came out. Cameras turned. The senator paused mid-sentence, his smile cracking. Then his eyes locked on me. Recognition, rage, panic. I took a step back, ready to run, but the man beside me pulled a gun from his jacket. I saw it, saw the glint, saw the end of everything. Then, bang. Not from his gun, from somewhere behind him. The man jerked forward, eyes wide, blood blooming down his chest. He collapsed. Harper was already pushing through the crowd, weapon raised. "Move," he shouted. "Go, now!" Security scrambled. People screamed. Chaos exploded across the ballroom. The senator ducked behind the podium, barking orders at men in earpieces. But it was too late. The truth was out. I ran toward the side exit, the screens behind me flashing with every secret they thought would stay buried. And in the center of it all, Senator Dean Richardson, watching me, like he'd just seen a ghost. The fire alarm was still screaming when we hit the side stairwell. My lungs were burning, legs numb, but I didn't stop moving. Couldn't. The USB drive had done its job. The files were live, streaming from every screen in the ballroom, every synced phone, every broadcast channel Harper's team could break into. But we weren't out of danger, not even close. Behind me, Harper slammed the stairwell door shut and jammed it with a steel bar. He was bleeding from his shoulder, just a graze, but he didn't flinch. "Keep going," he growled. We pounded down the stairs. 3 flights, 4. Below us, muffled shouting echoed. Guards, or worse. We reached the basement level, utility access. Harper kicked open a maintenance door, and we burst into a narrow corridor lined with wires and rusted pipes. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. I could hear the screams from upstairs, not from fear, from exposure. People saw it. The money trails, the off-book accounts, the black site payments, the voice recordings, Richardson himself threatening whistleblowers, leaked memos with kill orders redacted in everything but intent. We blew it all open, and the world was watching. "You understand what you just did?" Harper said, barely keeping pace. I nodded, panting. "Yeah, you didn't just call him out." I pulled the mask off. He gave me a look. Not approval, not quite pride. Something more dangerous. Respect. We burst through a service door and spilled into the loading dock, blinking against the floodlights and the roar of arriving sirens. Harper's backup team was already there. Black SUVs, armed agents moving like shadows, faces tight with urgency. One of them, a tall woman in body armor, approached Harper. "We've got a safe route out, but the press is already here." Harper's eyes locked with mine. And for the first time, he asked, "You want to vanish, Tobias? We can make that happen. Or..." He nodded toward the flashing lights across the street. "You can show them who you really are." I didn't hesitate. "I've been invisible my whole life," I said. "Not tonight." We stood at the edge of the barricade as reporters swarmed. Cameras snapped. Microphones were shoved in my face like weapons. The crowd parted when I stepped into the light. That same mugshot they used on the news, the one where they said I was a terrorist, it was nowhere now. Because there I was, in a tux, covered in blood and dust, but alive and unafraid. They yelled questions. "Are you the hacker? Did you leak those files? Is it true the senator had you targeted?" I raised my voice, not loud, but sharp enough to cut through every single one. "My name is Tobias Jennings," I said. "I'm 16, and everything they told you about me was a lie." The flashes intensified. I held up Harper's tablet. This is the truth, I said. Every dollar they stole, every person they silenced, every life ruined to protect men like Dean Richardson. One of the reporters gasped. Are you saying the senator ordered the attack on the courthouse? I looked straight at her. I'm saying he didn't stop it. Someone handed me a mic. I didn't ask who. I just took it. They tried to call me a criminal, a national threat, because I exposed what they wanted to keep buried, because I'm young, because I'm black, because I don't speak when they expect me to. But I saw a man about to lose his life to a broken system, and I couldn't stay quiet. Behind me, on every TV van and live stream, Richardson's face was still playing, frozen, exposed. Harper stepped beside me. We have agents moving in now, he said quietly. Capitol building, his home, his off-site data vaults. I nodded. It wasn't just a leak anymore. It was a takedown. An hour later, we watched it happen in real time. Senator Richardson, still in his tuxedo, was led out of a government SUV in handcuffs. His face was blank, but his eyes found the nearest camera. And behind that lens, me. It didn't matter that I wasn't in the room. He knew. I'd ripped away the layers he built his power on. And I could feel it, even through the screen. He hated me for it. He whispered something as they dragged him through the Capitol steps. Harper tilted his head. You think he just swore vengeance or gave a final denial? I shook my head. No, that wasn't either. Then what was it? I stared at Richardson's lips as they moved. Slow, precise. Just 4 words. This isn't over yet. And I believed him. The senator was gone, but the echo he left behind stayed. For the next 48 hours, the country spun. News anchors couldn't say my name fast enough. Some called me a hero. Others still clung to the word criminal. They played clips of me on every channel, my speech, the leaks. The moment Richardson was cuffed, like a man being pulled from a burning throne. I should have felt proud. I didn't. I felt hollow, tired, like I'd opened a door I couldn't close, and behind it was more rot than anyone had imagined. We laid low in a safe house outside the city. Nothing fancy, just concrete walls, a mattress, and a steel desk with no drawers. Harper moved like a man expecting the floor to cave in. Every 15 minutes, he checked the window. Every hour, he swapped burner phones. He didn't speak much, but I could see it in his eyes. He didn't think this was over either. That morning, Harper tossed a folder onto the table. I opened it. Newspaper headlines, internal memos, Secret Service transcripts. Whistleblower leak confirmed authentic. Senator Richardson's offshore accounts seized. Multiple federal indictments underway. But that wasn't all. Some of the files had been redacted, whole pages blacked out. Others marked eyes only. And one sheet, printed in faint gray ink, chilled me. A list. Names. Dozens. Politicians, judges, executives, military contractors. All of them connected. All of them in on it. I thought Richardson was the top, I muttered. Harper shook his head. He was the tip, the PR face. The one they let shine because they knew he'd take the fall first if things got hot. I stared at the paper. Then who's next? Harper didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because right then, the knock came. 3 times. Sharp. Deliberate. Harper froze, reached for his weapon. Another knock. I moved toward the door, instinct taking over, but Harper beat me to it. He cracked it just enough to peek, then opened it. There was no agent, no soldier, just a delivery envelope on the ground. He picked it up, scanned the hallway. Empty. Back inside, we opened it. Inside was a single folded letter. No address, no signature, just a typed message, short and clear. We saw what you did. You're not alone. I read it twice, then again. My hands started to shake. Harper stepped back, leaning against the wall like he'd just been hit in the gut. This changes things, he said. Is it a threat? He shook his head. It's a warning. Or a signal. I glanced at him. You believe it? His voice dropped. I believe there are people out there who want this machine to burn just as badly as you do. I sat down, still holding the letter. The words burned into my brain. You're not alone. For so long I thought I was. A kid screaming into silence. A hacker with no badge. A black student no one believed until the world was forced to listen. But now, someone else was listening. Someone out there knew the same darkness. And maybe, just maybe, they were ready to fight it too. Later that night, Harper stood near the window, arms crossed. "You can walk away now," he said. "They're indicting Richardson. The press is eating itself alive. We've done more than most people ever will." I looked up at him, but not enough. He nodded once. "Didn't think you'd say anything else." He tossed me a fresh burner phone and a key. "What's this?" "Another address. Secure node. Clean laptop waiting. You want to keep digging? You'll need it." I took it, and something inside me settled. Not peace, but clarity. This wasn't just about Richardson anymore. It never was. The next morning, I stood outside the Capitol building. The sun was rising. The city buzzed, trying to return to normal like it hadn't just witnessed a power structure crack in half. Harper stood beside me. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to, because in that silence, we both knew. There were more doors, more lies, more names, and I wasn't done, not by a long shot. I used to be the quiet kid in the back of the room, the one teachers forgot, the one students mocked with whispers they thought I couldn't hear. Now I was the name on everyone's lips. Reporters, prosecutors, politicians, they all wanted a piece of me. Some called me a whistleblower, others a traitor. A few even dared to say genius, but none of them knew the truth. I didn't do this for the headlines. I did it because I couldn't watch a system swallow another black man whole just to protect itself. The letter, "You're not alone," changed everything. It meant someone else had seen behind the curtain. And if they were watching, listening, maybe they were fighting too. Maybe this wasn't the end of my story. Maybe it was the beginning of something bigger. Harper and I didn't talk much after that morning. He just handed me a flash drive, a new encrypted laptop, and directions to another safe house even he wouldn't follow me to. He said, "You've got the instincts, but you'll need more than skill now. You'll need patience." I asked him if he was done. He didn't answer, just gave me a rare, crooked smile. Truth's a virus, kid. Once it spreads, even the strongest walls start to rot, and then he was gone. Back at the new safe house, an abandoned library converted into something that looked almost like home, I opened the drive. Inside were classified files, access points, private keys to encrypted databases I hadn't even known existed. Names, places, operations, all tied to the people Richardson protected. People still out there, still watching, still dangerous. I started digging again, but this time it felt different. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't running. I was building something, a war chest of truth. The media frenzy around Richardson was already dying. The government was scrambling to save face, to patch the cracks. They arrested 2 more low-level aides, froze accounts, held press conferences with words like integrity and reform. But I saw it for what it was, damage control. They were hoping I'd disappear now that the cameras had turned away, but they didn't understand something about me. I never wanted the spotlight. I just wanted the truth to hurt, to matter, to leave a scar. Sometimes at night, I still hear it. The judge's voice, his laughter, that smug smirk as he looked down on me like I didn't belong in that room. And I remember what I said back to him. "If you're done mocking me, I'd like to correct your mistake before an innocent man goes to prison." That moment, those words, split everything in two. Before, I was a shadow. After, I was a problem. And they still see me that way. Not because I'm wrong, but because I refuse to stay small. My mom calls once a week now. She doesn't ask where I am. I think part of her knows she shouldn't, but she always says the same thing before she hangs up. "Be careful, and don't lose yourself." I tell her I'm trying, but I know I already have. Not in a bad way, not lost like broken, lost like changed, like someone who can't go back to who he was. Because he's seen what that world really is. They still think I'm a kid with a laptop. But what I've built since that courtroom, it's not just code, it's a weapon. And when the time comes, I'll use it. Not for revenge, not for glory, but for every name they buried, every truth they tried to erase, every lie they sold in suits and smiles. This is no longer about one man or one case. It's about the system they swore would protect us, and the fact that it didn't. So, yeah. I'm not the kid in the back of the room anymore. I'm not a mistake they can clean up. I'm the consequence they didn't calculate. And I'm not done, not even close. What would you do if you uncovered the truth, but the truth put a target on your back? This story wasn't just about a teenager with a laptop. It was about a system that looks away when it should be watching, a courtroom that mocked before it listened, a society that measures credibility by age, skin color, and silence. Tobias Jennings stood up not because he wanted to be a hero, but because he refused to be a bystander. And in doing so, he revealed a dark truth that still exists today, that sometimes telling the truth is the most dangerous thing a young black person can do in America. But Tobias also showed us something else, that age doesn't define intelligence, that justice isn't served until someone dares to speak when no one else will. That change always starts with someone brave enough to say, this isn't right. So maybe the question isn't, how could this happen? Maybe the question is, how many times has it already happened, and no one listened? This story is a fictional dramatization intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not based on any specific real individual or event, and it does not aim to defame, attack, or insult any person, profession, or institution. Instead, it is meant to spark reflection on themes of justice, racial bias, and youth empowerment. Now, we want to hear from you. What would you have done in Tobias's shoes? Do you believe our justice system is built to protect the truth or to bury it? What can we all do to make sure stories like this don't happen in real life? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story made you feel something, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. We tell real stories that matter, stories that challenge, reveal, and shake the silence. Hit that bell so you never miss a story that could change the way you see the world. Thank you for watching this video. Wishing you a peaceful day, and see you in the next one.